Bird! Get him! Yeah! Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. It is the 8th of March, and my goodness, was that groundhog over in Pennsylvania wrong? He said, that little bugger said we were going to get 6 more weeks of winter. Well, we've just had probably 2 weeks of spring. Now, I know it's like a sucker hole in the sky. You think it's going to quit raining and you're going to go out and get soaked. Yeah, could we still get a little bit of snow here maybe in March? It happens. But I'm seeing the ground. I'm seeing ices off the small ponds. I guarantee you Mr. Woodcock is back here getting ready to do his dances. I can't wait for it. Spring's here. Spring is sprung. And you know the title sponsor of this show. I just found a new thing. I'm not the most exploratory person with my Onyx. I use it for the things I do. And I was digging through their website, and I never put the Onyx off-road onto my phone, and you can find legal dispersed camping, literally verified dispersed camping data integrated directly onto the map, so no more guessing or tracking down a ranger station or deciphering confusing maps. No crowds, no noise, no reservations, no more bad campsites with Onyx off-road dispersed camping map layer. There's my tip of the year for you. And if you want to add that to yours, I'm not sure if this promo code will work for adding it to it, but if you need to renew your Elite membership, use promo code HDP20. And maybe I'll meet you out on some dispersed camping grounds someday, but make sure you bring beer. Of course, when I'm there, my dogs will have their Gunner kennels, their Gunner food crates, their Gunner bowls, their Gunner bumpers, their Gunner beds. Right, it looks like when I go somewhere now, it looks like a giant Gunner commercial, which it should. They're one of my oldest sponsors. If not, technically, I think they are my oldest sponsor. And so my dogs love Gunner. I don't want to say my dogs love Garmin. I love Garmin. Dogs don't really care. You're going to hear about this in this podcast where you're going to listen to. We talk about e-collars, and I admit to my lack of use of those things. I always have one on my dog's neck for peace of mind, but I'm not an e-collar trainer. But if you are, then I already know you got Garmin around your dog's neck. You put the best around their neck. If you're not, think about it, all right? And think about your dog this time of year too. Hydrate and recover from Canine Athlete or probiotics. It's not just a hunting season thing. That stuff should be in your truck with you. I know a bunch of you. I know, I just got a total knee replacement, so I'm not going to be hoofing it through the Woodcock woods. Well, I'll get them out a little bit when the Woodcock come back up here. But they need hydrating. Just because it's not hunting season, exercise season, training season, you can always find a little spot to put some Canine Athlete love into your dog's belly and put a little Wilderness Athlete love into your belly. Now, I don't know if this promo code works on either product, but the 25% off for your first purchase with Canine Athlete using the promo code Canine Athlete, I've been seeing Instagram ads right now. Wilderness Athlete has a 30% sale off. I do not know if it applies to the dog products, but if you haven't tried their Hydrate and Recover and their Energy and Focus, let alone their peptides and everything else they got, check it out. It's a perfect 30% off. That's enough to make even Ronnie Freeshit open his wallet up. I am crossing my fingers that any day now, my Mossberg 16 gauge will be here. Now, I've got plenty of guns, and I've honestly got plenty of Mossbergs because Ronnie Freeshit sometimes gets a free gun. But I'm really looking forward to this one because 16 gauge is my gauge. It's a little romantic, it's a little different, and I think it's all you need. And of course, the only thing I shoot in 16 gauge is Boss ammunition, which is now in full production. All gauges, all sizes. They got their new what is it called? Textured copper coming out, I'll get into it. If all of a sudden your ears went up and you want to hear about it, Ty Webster just had Brandon Saricki on, and they explained everything about the new Boss Copper and the improvement to the new Boss Copper. So in a couple months, this might not be applicable because knowing Brandon, he will probably come up with something even newer. Who knows? Maybe there'll be trackers in them or something, so you don't even have to aim the gun. He'll come up with something like that. Now, Purina is not going to come up with something that silly, and I can't even think of anything silly to say because it's silly if you don't feed your dog Purina Pro Plan. I hear people say, oh, it's too expensive. For one thing, it's not too expensive. Your dog's not too expensive. Their health is not too expensive. Their research is not too expensive. And if you join the Pro Club, you get a bunch of money off by the bag. Look for it on sale. You can get it, or it's. Don't use that to be. And please don't be like the people that, used to buy gum leaf boots from Jack. Don't be like those people that buy suck boots. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. You can get by with a pair of suck boots, and you can get by with some other, I don't want to call it crap. You can get by with some other food company, but no food company does what Purina does for our dogs and for our conservation organizations, our trials, our hunt tests. No other company. Show me the company that does it, and I'll switch over to it. I'm not going to switch. I've been doing it for 35 years. Pike Gear has got a new. Did I talk about this? Yeah, I did. The Hell's Canyon. I should have that. It's some new and improvements. Got a better system in the pouch for the water bottles. Or extra water bottles. The new pockets. It's like a zip, but you don't have to use the zip. You can use the flap. It's just kind of like everything on here, from Onyx all the way down to Arxis boots, which are, I always like to say the boots formerly known as gum leaf. They are not really formerly known as gum leaf, but that is what Jack found to bring into this country once we couldn't get gum leaves anymore. Check out, and this is spring's training season. This is wet grass season. This is rainy season. This is, we're not talking drought season here. Look at the lineup at Arxis USA, ARXUS.com, and you will, oh my God, did you hear what I just said? I sounded like, oh my God, I said .com. Oh, I vowed I would never do that, and I'm not going to edit it, screw it. So between Pike Gear and Purina and Boss and Mossberg and K9 Athlete and Garmin and Gunner and Onyx, the only thing you're missing, and I'm still missing, is an area map of Southwest Michigan where you can now buy Watermark Brewery in stores. It's not everywhere. I wish it was. If it was, it would be as big as Budweiser. But they don't want to be as big. They don't want to be as big as Budweiser. They want to make the best beer that you'll ever taste. And if there's one thing I know about, if you want to take away from my hunting, my shotguns, my ammo, if there's one thing this guy I've been drinking beer longer than most of your parents have been alive. Okay? Well, it's 50 years anyway. And yes, I had an ill-spent first 40 years of that, drinking light beer. Not anymore. I know good beer, and Watermark is good beer. So yeah, like all these companies, all these sponsors, they're always coming up with something. They're always tweaking something. They're always, because they know that nothing's perfect. No dog is perfect. Nothing's perfect. So they're always tweaking it. The only thing you could do to be the perfect listener, let's see how I got that in there. And it is. It's a longer one. I admit it. It's a longer one. It's 8 minutes and 33 seconds already. The only thing you could do to be the perfect listener would be to become a patron of this show. You go to Patreon. It's called Patreon to become a patron of the show. And if you do it quick, this Thursday I'm going to have a Zoom room on the 12th, which is what we do once a month for our listeners. Not everybody can make it, but a lot of them make it, and it's a lot of fun. We talk about everything from soup to nuts, some stuff dog-related, some stuff not dog-related. But my God, do we have fun, let alone the extra content you get. My photo albums, some of the every once in a while an episode that I could never release. I found one the other day, and it was with, his last name's Ranella, but his first name's not Steve. and I think I'm going to put that one out to the greater podcasting or the greater Patreon world. It was kind of we were a little drunk, and but there was some parts of it that were funny. Anyway, you do all those things. You get Onyx ready. You've already heard it 3 times. Come on, my God, 9 minutes and 42 seconds. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I followed Charlie for quite a while, watched a lot of his stuff, and I honestly understand where he's coming from, where dog training in the UK is, and I believe you can start writing me hate mail. Well, wait till you listen to the whole episode. We rush things here. Okay, we absolutely rush. Now, I know we're talking about springers and cockers and labs mostly with him, but in general, we rush things with our dogs. We could take a listen and learn a lesson. Love you guys, love you girls, and I do love you patrons more.
All right, everybody. I have what I would consider a special guest on, especially when there's a 6-hour time change from is it green? How do you say GMT, Charlie? What is it?
Greenwich Mean Time.
Greenwich Mean Time. That threw me off right off the bat. I had to Google that. So, Charlie Thorburn has Mordor Gundogs and what is the podcast? The dog
The dog father.
The dog.
My little.
There it is.
I got my little sign just behind me.
And I followed him off and on for quite a while since he's been doing his YouTube stuff, and I really love a lot of the things you say. I don't ascribe to all of them, but I like your honesty. And so I've been kind of deep diving into some of your interviews, Charlie, and a couple you did with Joe and a couple you did with your head trainer, where they ask you a few questions and stuff. And you said something about, in other words, if somebody doesn't want an honest answer, don't ask me. I got that from my dad. Is that kind of right?
That's absolutely right. Yes.
Right.
In England, in the UK, we would the way we would describe it is a spade is a spade.
It's space.
Okay, so a shovel, you know what? Again, I'll slightly different words, but a shovel is a shovel.
Right.
Like you can call it something else. You can give yourself a fancy title, but ultimately, a spade is a spade. Black is black, and white is white. It's pretty. Keep it simple.
Yeah. And again, kind of getting like I would call myself not a late in life hunter. I've been doing it for a long, long time. I'm sure I'm a little bit. I know I'm older than you are. Your kids are still young yet.
I'm 46 next week.
Oh my God, I'm old enough to be your father and then some. So anyway, well, at least in this country. So I got a English cocker because every magazine article here in the States talked about English cockers. And I interviewed a couple people, and I don't remember the names over the years, a couple people from the UK. And their description was like, well, this dog was meant for me. And I realized that I didn't know what I came from that pointing dog world, and I didn't know what I was doing, like literally what I was doing. But the one thing I took away, and maybe we could start here, is what these other trainers told me was, is it common, or at least the way they made me feel, that you're gonna do more in the first year with the dog without bird contact, as opposed to just getting this puppy into birds, right? Is that kind of a UK thing, or is that maybe just their preference?
It's a UK thing.
Mhm.
So that's the biggest difference I see from our training to training in America and in Europe is we instill all the obedience and the control and the skills and the discipline, and then we get them onto birds. Whereas so much of the stuff I see, in the States particularly is letting them chase a kind of a crippled bird or something, and people are delighted when their 5-month or 4-month-old puppy is retrieving a quail that's running away, and
Yeah.
that they're getting really birdy and stuff. And like, I'm sitting there thinking, oh God, this dog's just going to be out of control.
Well,
So and the analogy I use is look at kids. Okay, we don't generally. I mean, some people probably do, but generally, kids go to bed on time. There's rules. They got to go to school. They've got to do their homework. And then as they get older, you allow more and more kind of their own decisions, because you're hoping they're now old enough and mature enough that they can handle these environments. You don't put a 5-year-old kid behind the wheel of a truck and go, oh, they crashed it, I wonder why. And that's the analogy. That's the way in the UK, that's how we look at how, like, you guys train your dogs, is like, why would you let them chase all this stuff and then turn around and say, oh, you're not allowed to chase it anymore?
Right.
Whereas we're very much drip feed the control, manage the training, and then when they're ready and they show us that they can behave, they can heel, they can stop on a whistle, they can do all these things.
Yeah.
Right now, we're going to give you some real life experience. Okay.
Well, I've been listening to you for a while.
Pointing dogs is, there are some variables slightly different with some, I know that people, when they're training HPR, pointing dogs, will get them onto game, to get them pointing younger than in the UK than we would with a sort of a spaniel or a Labrador.
Right. And I kind of took that path with, I have a 4-year-old wire-haired Vizsla, and I took that path with him, and he didn't see a bird until about 10 months of age. And I was totally, I could be getting fooled by randomness, Charlie, or maybe I did the right thing. He's the most cooperative dog I have. I did all, I've trained dogs for different levels of test, and like I said, I've judged for 22 years for this organization. And I've seen the whole gamut of out of control young puppies. And it usually does stem from overstimulation. And, but I was that person that didn't want to go like, will the instincts expire? Like I'm not, that's the bit that people are paranoid about. I've taken, I've seen dogs come in like who've never had any kind of gun dog training, and they've come in for training, and they're like 2.5, 3. People have brought them for a lesson, and you can just see it's there. right.
Like one of my mentors, who I've done a podcast with recently, we haven't actually released it yet. I think it'll be out I think it'll probably be out in March. And one of the things I learned from him from early on was he was a big fan of, with spaniels, and then get the heel work in, get the obedience. And people would say, oh, but you're going to kill the drive. You're going to kill the drive. And he's like, if a dog's got a good natural ability, it'll come out again. The drive will come out. You don't need to do it as a youngster to get it right. Now, one of my, as a human analogy, one of my wife's best friends is an Olympic double Olympic gold medalist rower. So her and her teammate, Helen Glover and Heather Stanning, and Heather is one of my wife's great friends, and they were the best rowing pair in the world, female rowing pair in the world, for 9 years. Okay. Heather didn't get in a boat till she was 20.
You mean she wasn't born in one?
Well, exactly. She wasn't like, she didn't have sort of pushy parents saying, you must row at 5 years old. We want to get you to the Olympics when you're 25. Someone when she was at university said, Heather, you're quite tall and strong. You should try rowing.
Right.
And she becomes, she becomes the best female rower in the world for 9 years.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a perfect example. Now, clearly there's people who would say, oh yeah, but if you look at like these sort of famous footballers, they were dribbling footballs from a young age. So the point is there is no right answer, but there's also not necessarily a wrong answer. There's just different ways of doing it. And I think this is where people are like, oh, but we must do this. It's like, it depends what you're trying to achieve. If you want a super high drive dog that you're trying to win kind of the sort of like top end competition with, and those ultimately in the UK, and I'm sure it's the same in America, those top Labradors, Spaniels, Pointers, they are all just on the edge of control all the time. They're just on the edge of control. They're not like they're very rarely like a totally solid dog, because they've got to be on the edge, because they've got to have that kind of on their tiptoes ready to go. If that's what you want to do, then yeah, probably you want to build up the drive and really encourage it. But most people don't want that. Most people want a nice hunting dog that's going to be lying at their feet. I've got one over there and I've got 2 over there. Right. They're lying at your feet. They're just kind of like, because I know that when we go out, they've got enough drive and motivation that they'll do a really good job for me. Are they are they the Usain Bolt of the kind of the hunting world? Probably not. But do I need a Usain Bolt, or do I just need a really steady dog that's just a joy to go out with?
Yeah.
And I've got a black Labrador female called Nike, and she's easily the best, potentially the best dog we have in Labrador we have in the kennels, but she's a bloody handful. And it's not like a relaxing experience going out shooting with her.
Right.
It's awesome because if she sees a bird down at 300 yards, her eyes are popping out in stalks. You say go, and she's gone, and she's not coming back without it.
Right.
But if I'm sitting on a driven shoot or having a day where I'm talking to people and like relaxing and having a nice time, I've always got to be watching her, and I've got to be, hey, you heel, you behave.
Yeah.
And she's there with her ears pricked half a yard in front of everybody else, just always ready. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's great. She's fun. It's great fun, but she's not my top pick if I'm going out hunting with my kids. She's not like the dog I go, oh, I'm going to take Nike. I'm like, oh, I'll take Nike and maybe take her out for a bit, but I also want to just
Right.
be able to concentrate on my kids and have a nice time and actually try and hit a bird without having to watch this dog.
Yeah.
But when she does something right, wow, she's awesome. But it's, that one retrieve that's awesome versus the kind of one of some of my counterparts. I've got a red Labrador called Biscuit, and I mean literally Biscuit's never done anything wrong in her life, and she's just an absolute bliss, just a joy to take out.
Yeah.
You just like, where's Biscuit? Oh, she's at my heel. What's Biscuit doing? Oh, she's behaving. She's doing what she's meant to. They're so it's just about like, it's like the kind of the Ferrari. It's awesome to drive that racetrack kitted out Ferrari, but how often you're on the racetrack and how
Right.
often
If you live in the city, you don't really need a Ferrari. Yeah.
or if you live in the country and you're going like taking the kids to school and you're going to the store and stuff, it's like, how often does that Ferrari come out? It doesn't. It comes out like a couple of sunny days a year for like a blast up the hill or whatever, and then you're like, oh yeah, I better put it away because I might damage it.
Yeah. Well, to a couple of your points, so I've been, like I said, I've been prescribing to this, and it's not done me any wrong. Like I said, I could be. I don't have enough data because all my other dogs I did things kind of early with, and I've had probably, I think I've had 25 dogs. Some lived long, some lived short, some got moved on. But I'd always kind of rushed the process, and then fought that desire. Like I fought that temperament that I gave them to do the obedience, because to do our test, then now we have to have a steady to wing shot and fall dog. And to your point, if the first 10 birds this dog saw, he chased, and you're elated and you're using that for your gunfire, then bang means go, right? Bang doesn't mean stop. Bang means go.
Yeah.
And so at our training grounds, which we are not too far from my house, the last couple of years, I see this all the time. A new person comes in, they have a puppy on a lead, and one of the other members of the club will come up, and the first thing I say, has your puppy seen a bird yet? And if I hear that, I jump in like your dad would have jumped in, or my dad would have jumped in, and say, whoa. And I come up to a guy and said, did your dad give you a Playboy magazine when you were in kindergarten, or did he figure you were going to chase girls when you were a teenager? Which that is, to me, that's the analogy. Like, yeah, they didn't give us that. They're like, he'll find that magazine someday, right? That's our instincts, And so I want to tell you, I'm totally for that process. At least if we could back it down a little bit, I think people would be better off with that. But there's something I wrote here. I picked off of one of your besides your tagline is you get out what you put in. You had something where it seems like in the States we are breeding dogs that need collars. And I think you're spot on.
Yeah.
We're so impressed with the speed that
But you don't have any brakes.
we don't have any brakes. And brakes in our scorecard, we have desire and we have cooperation. I don't know if you use the same analogy or the same words, but cooperation is what the dog gives to you naturally. Like, and if you do all that early puppy work and those puppy walks and come when called and wait at the door and wait at the crate, you'll see how cooperative that dog is. And that obedience training doesn't have to be really overt. It doesn't have to be crazy. It can be that dog is so used to stopping that it's not unfamiliar with that dog to stop later on when you want it to with a bird. But
No.
here's my I need a trainer question for spaniels. So how do you let's just fast forward it the first year, whether it's 10 months or 14 months, the first year you do all this acclimation to the field, to come when called, good manners.
Yeah.
When do you put the bird to the dog, or when? I'm sure it varies, but
When there's basically when there's nothing else to test.
oh, okay. Like
So when they stop on a whistle every time, anytime, when you can hunt them along, fire a dummy launcher right across, a bumper launcher right across in front of them, when you can whack a tennis ball right past them and they'll stop and sit down, when they're walking at heel down the road and you throw a ball down across in front of them and they just stop and sit down, and you're like, I can't make this dog not stop on the whistle. I can't make it
right.
go. I can't make it run in. Now we're ready to find a bird. So the first bird they find, they flush it, the whistle goes, dog sits down. And that's it. That's the picture. That's the picture we want for the rest of their life. So that's the first one we show them. We don't even allow them to even think that there's another opportunity. Whereas if you've let them chase, that picture is always in their mind. And although you've really put in the time to steadiness and stop whistle, they've still got that initial picture of, I chased this a few times. Oh, that's still there. Or we can still chase. They've still got that. Whereas I would rather they had the kind of, oh, a bird gets up and I stop and watch it away. Now, people go, oh, but it's going to take their drive away. These dogs have got, what a game bird does in their nose and then does to their brain and then does to their legs.
Right.
You're not shutting that down. You are putting a little bit of a dampener on it when they're 10, 11, 12, 14 months old, whatever age that is when they're first seeing a bird. But they see another one and they get a bit more enthusiastic, and another one, until they're kind of really,
Yeah.
but they've still got that kind of, but I've got to stop. And they almost get their adrenaline from finding it and stopping, and they don't feel like they need to get the adrenaline from the chase. Whereas if you show them when they're young to chase, they're getting their adrenaline from the chase. They're getting their hit. They're getting that like that hit of drugs, that heroin hit in their arm from the chase, whereas we're getting that from the find.
Yeah. And obviously, could you go out on a limb and say, if you did that right, that breaking process when they're on birds, there has to be a slip up once in a while, maybe a double bird comes up but
yeah, of course. I mean, they're not robots. No dog's a robot. They get it wrong, but you've just got so much better control. All you then have to do is just put in a bit of body language. You just pace towards them and, hey, what are you doing?
Right. So they've,
just to add in a bit of pressure from that sit whistle. If you feel like you're losing them, it's just, and then we'd go over and we'd pick them up and we'd put them back on the spot that we blew the whistle, blow the whistle again, and just repeat it.
Right. And in training, I put together with a real well-known trainer here in Michigan. We put up a very, I should have sent it to you, but we just didn't have enough time. We have an online, and it's based on pointing dog training. And a lot of the stuff Justin does, short of the bird introduction, is very much like that. A lot of waiting at the door, waiting at the gate, a lot of obedience, or a lot of working with the person without birds. Although I will say the birds do get introduced earlier, but I think he feels that he's got a handle on him. But his handle is the check cord. Like, he doesn't take a dog out, whether it's a puppy with a lighter check cord or a bigger dog. Is check cords a thing in the UK?
It is a thing. It is a thing, but it's normally a sort of remedial thing. We're fixing a problem. So dogs come here and they've been allowed to chase.
Okay.
And they've already got that. So we have to put them on a check cord just to kind of stop them being able to stand on the check cord and stop them going.
Right.
But it's not something like, I can't think of any. I'm trying to rack my brains, and we train a lot of dogs here. We're busy. I've got a team of trainers. We're a busy place. I can't think of any of our own dogs, as in the ones we've bred and had since puppies. I can't think of a dog that's been on a check cord I mean, I just can't think of any. I can think of a lot of dogs that people come for training. They come for a lesson. Their dog comes for a bit of residential training or boarding school, whatever you want to call it. And we've put plenty of them on check cords because it's the only way to stop them taking off over the horizon. But I can't think of, and I'm sure one of the guys when they see this will be like, "Oh, you forgot about, so and so."
Yeah.
But I can't. It's not like it's like, "Oh yeah, we've had 5 dogs this year already that have been on a check cord," and we've got a lot of dogs. We've got dozens and dozens of dogs we're training. So I can't think of any of our own bred dogs that have had to be on a check cord.
All right. Now, I'm going to get into some, like I said, listener and patrons of mine questions. Something we prescribe to in at least the versatile club that I'm involved with and other ones that I know of. And this goes more to the pointing dogs. We use a training table, like a 2-foot by 8-foot training table with ramps on either end. Do you guys use any type of elevated platforms in your training?
What are you using that for?
Just to get the dog off the ground and kind of it. I've always made the analogy that it's kind of like he knows when he's on the table, it's like school time, as opposed to
What are you doing on the table? What sort of things are you doing with it?
Well, that would be for early whoa training. Like you walk them up the table and stop, walk them down the ramp, up the ramp, down the ramp. You use it. Usually the biggest thing it's used for is the trained retrieve, which most
I was going to say
force.
That's the only time I've seen them used in America is forced retrieving, which we're like, survey says, waste of time. So like, no, the answer's no. I don't know anyone who uses a training table in the UK, but I see them all the time in America. And but I haven't seen the woe training and stuff. I've just seen them force fetch. And I'm like, well, we don't do that. We don't believe in it.
So are you going to go for a delivery to hand for a dog once he starts? Because you're not running with a puppy now. You're running with a year-old dog with birds. If you were going to compete with a dog,
delivery to hand's all done though.
It's already done.
Delivery to hand all done with a tennis ball and a pumper long before they see a bird.
Okay. So
when they pick up a first bird, they bring it back and they put it in my hand, they let go. Occasionally they're like, "Ooh, this is a bit exciting." They're not crushing it, but they're kind of holding on and we ease it out of their mouth. But they're not like picking it up and going woohoo and running around because we've fixed that already. They're not going anywhere near a bird if they're still behaving like that. So we did a little video for the owners this morning of a Springer Spaniel. We bred it. It went away as a puppy, and they've basically made a balls up of training it. So it's come back at 14 months old for sort of a bit of remedial training.
Mm-hmm.
And it's after 3 weeks with us is just about bringing back to hand. It's circling us a little bit, but it's holding it. It's circling around our body. Whereas when it arrived, it would just pick it up and run away.
Right.
But that's all just a tennis ball, or that's just with a tennis ball. That dog's not looking at it. That dog's not going to see a bird for a long time. That dog's going to have to come in and sit, hold the tennis ball, give it to me, steady to retrieve, steady to everything, bomb proof. Out hunting, I'm throwing a ball. It's finding it. It's bringing it. It's finding it as part of the hunting. It's off one side. I throw the ball that way. It's coming back across. It's finding the ball. It's picking it up, bringing it back to me, sitting down, handing it to me. I'm taking it off it, casting it off again. I'm doing marked retrieve. So stopping the dog, throwing the bumper or the ball out there, hunting them on again, sending them back. They're bringing it back to me. They're sitting delivery, hand delivery. And then once they're doing that repeatedly, then we would think about a bird. But the first bird they retrieve, like the first bird they flush, they just bring it back and hand it to me in a nice, polite way, because we've essentially, dog training is brainwashing. We've repeated it so many times that they don't know any different. So the whole like forced fetch thing and doing it on the table and things is just not something. We use a place board. We use like a
short, like a
3-4 made of 2x4 or 4x2 as we would call it. 2x4 you'd call it. With a sheet of plywood over the top, and then we put AstroTurf around ours just to give them more grip. So we'll use that for sitting and staying, much more so with the Spaniels. The Labradors don't really need it, but for sitting and staying with the Cockers particularly. And then that's a good, like, once they've got used to sitting on their place board, they'll run back to it. So then we'll use that as part of our retrieving. So we'll throw the retrieve, and then they'll run back and we'll be standing next to the place board. and they'll come and sit on it because they've done so much sitting and staying on it. But that's only, I've only used that. I would say we've only really used that here in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something I've historically used. I guess I use it. We use it more now. I mean, partly I don't do nearly as much dog training as I used to, because I'm busy making YouTube videos and doing all the kind of admin that comes with running a business. But and I guess part of that is I'm not 25 anymore. I'm 45. So I am looking at ways of just making life a little bit easier because I'm I've broken my back, I've had surgery, and I'm not as fit as I was 20 years ago.
Sure.
So the play sport is relatively a new thing.
Yeah, there's a company here called Cato Board in Wisconsin, and he's a Springer. He competed in some of the Springer stuff, and I took a lot of guidance from him on my first one, and he was the one that told me you don't force break a Springer or a cocker, because I was actually gonna put her up on the table and put the bumper in her mouth, and he said no. He said you don't. And both of these, now my second cocker's now 3 years old. And I know my listeners have heard this. I've been doing this podcast. This is my 12th year. They've heard this probably to the point where they're going to put their fingers in their ear. But both of those dogs, both of those cockers on their first wild bird hunt, never saw a rooster in their life, grabbed that rooster with authority and ran it back to my ankles. So I completely believe what you're saying, but it's hard for us to not want to screw it up a little bit. We want to proof it before we even tested it instead of training it and
So I've spoken to guys in America about this before, and they're like, "Oh no, we do it because we don't want the dog letting us down in a retrieve." And I'm like, "Okay, so flip it round. If you really love doing something passionately, whether that's hunting or whether that's skiing or it's reading books or whatever your individual thing is, if you truly love it, you might not be the best at it, but you are going to put everything into it.
Yeah.
Okay. If your parents force you to play the piano from age 6 and you hate every minute of it, you're not going to sit down at a piano at a party and start playing it.
No.
Because you hate it. You can do it. You're probably pretty damn good at it because you've been forced into it. But it's not going to be something you're desperate to do because, I love doing that. Any opportunity, I want to do that. So I love skiing. I love hunting. I love all sorts of other things. I love being out in a boat. Any opportunity to go skiing, go out in a boat, go hunting, go out with dogs, see people's dogs. I'm there because I love it. No one ever forced me to do it. But if someone forced me to do something I didn't enjoy doing, like when I was a kid at school, I was forced to do cross-country running. I didn't go running.
No,
I run after dogs when they're naughty, but I don't go running for fun because it just isn't something I've ever enjoyed. But my son is good at running and he loves running. And sometimes we'll get 2 miles away from home and he'll just ask us to stop the car because he wants to run home. So he's going to be good at running and he's always going to take an opportunity to run. Now, put that in terms of a dog. If you're having to force your dog to retrieve, they're never going to be good at it. Right. Whereas if you've got a dog that just desperately wants to do it because you've encouraged it and honed that skill, so you've encouraged it enough but not forced it, then you've got a dog who loves it. Oh, I love retrieving. And so they're going to do it at any opportunity. They're never going to go, oh, I don't want to do it today. Right. Whereas if you've got a dog that's been forced to do it, okay, under pressure, and then they're out there and they can't see you, they might just go, oh, bugger that. I'm not going to pick this up because he can't even see me and I don't want to. And funnily enough, I think the opposite. I think the opposite from all of you. You guys are like, oh, we want to proof it. I think by forcing them to do it, you're actually making them less reliable. Whereas if you encourage them to love it, they're just going to do it forever.
Yeah. Like I said, I was gobsmacked both times. And every time either one of those had a bird in their mouth, they do. I mean, I never got it to the point where, well, usually I'm down, they're cockers, so I'm down by my ankles anyway. But I have seen them drop it out of their mouth, but I never did even any of the cleanup tennis ball work or anything with it. I was just shocked that natural ability, to our point earlier, that retrieving instinct did not expire. It was just waiting for an opportunity. And
yeah.
And I've had I've had some pointing dogs that were on the high end of retrieving, but most of them I had to work with. And when we get our scores in a finished gun dog test, the judges can tell the dogs that in fact in our judge's handbook it used to say the dog should return happily and merrily with the bird. And
Yeah.
you don't see that with most of them. They bring it back,
But
but
they have to, not because they want to.
right. They in fact, and the ones that really make me laugh are the ones that'll go at a long distance to get a bird because that's fun. And they get within 30 yards of the handler and they look at the handler and they drop the bird. And then we start writing notes. We start writing notes on our scorecard. So
Yeah. I mean, I was on at the weekend on Friday. I was hunting in New York, 2 hours north of the city, it was like Millbrook, New York area, with a little cocker spaniel who is no bigger than a big rooster. She's tiny, like really tiny. Her legs are like this big, tiny little thing, and she'll pick up a rooster and semi-carry it, semi-drag it back to you across 2 feet of snow, like frozen snow, and her little tail's going, and you can see in her eyes, she's like, this is Christmas. She loves it.
yeah.
Now, she took a bit of time. She took longer than most of our cockers because she is so small
Yeah.
that it was just kind of like she was great on a partridge. And then we moved from a partridge to like a hen pheasant. And then really this year, she's really got into roosters.
Right.
But that was just the kind of confidence thing, not a lack of enthusiasm for it. Because a partridge or a quail, even better. I mean, she's like a dream quail dog because she's tiny.
Right.
But she just loves it. And her little tail goes and like, you can just see she's so happy to be retrieving her big rooster that's the same size of her. And, you know, if you'd forced that dog to retrieve, she'd have just shut down.
Well, and I've heard you say that on a lot of your stuff, that some of your best dogs, if you would have, say, used a collar on them or changed up things, they would have shut down on you. And
Yeah, I mean, my first Labrador, who's the founding dog of all of my Labradors, I mean, I actually need to sit down one day and work out of the sort of 13 generations we are away from him, how many puppies and children, grandchildren, etc. he's had, and it'll be in the tens of thousands.
yeah.
And that dog, if you'd said boo to him, he shut down. So if you'd used a collar on him, he never made a gun dog, and he was probably one of the best dogs I'll ever have.
Wow.
I mean, he's the best dog I've ever had so far. But you know,
you're young.
I hope to have more. Yeah, and I've still very much got his family line. But yeah, he was amazing. But there was no way he would have taken the pressure of force fetch, you know, a collar, electric collar, anything like that. And absolutely not.
Right. I want to get to a couple of my listeners that knew I was going to do this one. I imagine this is, you're not a historian, but you would know. He wanted to know about the split between the springers and the cockers. Like, about when did that happen? Because they're basically, at least what we understand,
They were just spaniels. Yeah.
they were just spaniels.
Yeah. So what they decided was that there was just the spaniel, and they then the split was, and what's amazing is how much bigger the dogs must have been, because the split it was 21 inches at the withers, and above was a springer, and below was a cocker. Because what the dogs did before was they'd jump over all the brambles, and the woodcock would be asleep in the brambles, so they'd miss them. And what they wanted was a dog that was smaller and neater and would get under the brambles to find the woodcock. So they're woodcockers. So they're woodcockers. So they were bred smaller. Now 21 inches at the withers is a reasonable size English Labrador, British Labrador.
Yeah.
So we've got, I mean, I think we have one springer who might be that big, but most of our springers are, 18 inches at the withers. So like, the size is reduced over time, and some of the cockers now are absolutely tiny, whereas they used to be more the size the springers are now, and the springers were obviously bigger. When was that? I actually, if I'm totally honest, I don't know, but I imagine sort of 150 years ago.
Somewhere back, at least 100.
My wife's great aunt bred cocker spaniels field trial, and they were dual purpose in those days. There wasn't the show ones or the bench ones. They were just cocker spaniels, and she used to show them, and her gamekeeper used to field trial them, and that was in the 20s.
So
So that was very much a kind of, they're very much in existence, and they look, the pictures of the paintings of these dogs, which, in a way, I kind of hope one day might come our direction. Her uncle has them in his house, but it's kind of rather fitting that these dogs would come to us because that's our life. Yeah, that was very much, you can see the kind of, you can see a little bit of the show, the bench, the show cockers, and you see a bit of the working. Like you can see where the two breeds have the breed is almost split to create two different breeds. But you can see both of them in those dogs, and it wasn't like she'd kind of invented the wheel. She just had.
So that was already 100 years ago. Yeah. So
Exactly. So, and she was field trialing them. Well, her gamekeeper was field trialing them for her and winning things, and she was judging. And so, I had a thought around the time that kind of probably a similar sort of time that Labradors were invented. There was a lot of the Victorians they created a hell of a lot of dog breeds. I mean, phenomenal amounts of dog breeds. That was really the kind of the burst in all these breeds becoming breeds was the Victorians.
yeah, it was like the industrial age came on for dogs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Industrialists buying hunting estates. I talked about it on my HPR when I was talking about the HPRs. Buy the German industrialists buying their hunting estates, but not having the wherewithal that the old aristocrats had to have kennels of dogs. So they just wanted their universal HPR dog to to do a bit of everything.
Right.
And all at the same time, the golden retriever was invented, the Labrador was invented. I think the spaniels, a number of there was the I think probably the English Springer, the Cocker, the Welsh Springer, the Clumber Spaniel. I imagine all of those are all within a sort of zone, and they would all just come from a Spaniel.
Right.
And they were someone said I like them to do this, someone said I like them to do this, someone said I like them to do this, and they bred them with other things to kind of, and to hone in on the traits. And that was, the Victorians did things like, 20 years they kind of create an entire breed, and it would be completely different from what it was started out as. Like they got on with it.
Yeah. Couple other things I wanted to just ask you, as far as coat maintenance, which kind of goes to conformation. I know in the States, we've got more things that'll stick to a dog's coat than you could imagine, unless you have a Labrador or a German Shorthair Pointer. Do you do anything? Do you do any trimming? Do you breed?
We do a bit, yeah. Like, not. We find that some of them just have longer coats than others. I find that most of mine tend to have reasonably neat coats. I'd say the one big difference between, say a Labrador or a Pointer versus a Spaniel is if you neuter them, the Spaniel's hair just goes crazy. Whereas the Labrador's really doesn't change, the Pointer's really doesn't change,
Right.
but the Spaniel's hair grows like tenfold. It's just all scraggly and it's just a mess. So what we tend to do is we lift up their front leg and let all the feathers hang, and I just go snip, snip, snip.
Yeah.
And I do that once a year, and maybe in September, just as our hunting season starts. If they're ones that've got a lot of fluff between their toes, we'll maybe trim that out.
Right.
And then on their back legs, kind of around their sort of the feathers that hang around on the back legs, we'll do the same thing, and the same with their tail. I'll hold their tail up, and I'll just, there's a big sort of load of hair, and I'll just trim it off.
Yeah.
Maybe once a year. But I've got a number of Cockers particularly that we don't have to do that because they've got shorter fur.
Well, yeah, and on mine, I noticed the only place she will get them is a couple feathering spots, really. Her coat is kind of, it lays flat, and it's rather silky almost, and it just doesn't seem to, it doesn't.
No, I would say that's,
No,
so the ears are the worst. The ears are the worst bit, and there's nothing really you can do about it. So you just have to, you just have to brush them and deal with it.
I've got to the point where one year I shaved their ears with a clipper.
Yeah, the problem is you do that once and then that's it. You've always got to do it because they just turn into kind of
I found that
crazy hair. So I absolutely, I never do that, and I try and persuade people to never do it, because once they've done it once, that's it. You're in the groomers every 3 or 4 months getting them completely clipped. We've had clients who've just shaved the whole dog so they can see ticks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but then you've got to shave the dog for the rest of its life. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
So I persuaded one guy he'd had 3 Springers and he used to shave them all, and then his most recent one he doesn't, and he gets on fine. So,
And then somebody wanted to know. I mean, I don't think we need to go into description of driven hunt. I think people either watched it or they understand it's with beaters, and and shooters. A driven hunt is a stationary hunt that the game is pushed to you. But could you describe rough shooting? Because I've seen there was a book about rough shooting. Is it what we would call going
Field
out
hunts.
for the day? Just
Field hunting.
okay. You just
You
call
guys would call it field hunting. So it's a kind of one man and his dog, or two men and their dogs, and it's very much you're flushing your own birds, you're shooting your own birds, you're retrieving your own birds. It's just one or two of you doing your own thing.
Yeah.
There's no great organization. You're just kind of like, oh, let's go down that ditch, let's go around that hedgerow, let's go across that bit there. It's not like we're going to push this wood through, we're going to have guns there, beaters here, and it's a much more just a sort of going out to get a few pheasants for your pot
yeah.
and work your dog. Much more traditional kind of hunter-gatherer kind of stuff. So yeah, all the guys that I train dogs for in kind of New York, Connecticut, New York, Boston area, that would be a field hunt. Well, they would call it a field hunt. So,
And then one of my buddies wanted to know, I got to find this one. Where is it? Trailing. They want to know a little bit. Want to know a little bit about confirmation. I shouldn't say you don't. Do you do any confirmation testing or ring work with your dogs at all? Or what do you ascribe your confirmation to? Just what's worked for you in the past and get what you get, whether it's a taller dog or not a great head? How do you deal with confirmation?
so beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I know what I'm looking for in my labs, in my spaniels, and so I'll look for it and I'll breed for it. So if I've got I'll tend to, I tend to kind of, I only like pretty dogs. I don't like these tall springers or cockers. I like them all Labradors. I like all of my dogs to be kind of quite solid, thick, kind of thicker, but not so heavy that they're not agile. Just a nice shape. And it's just, and I like a nice head. I don't want too long a nose in any of them. I don't want them too tall. I don't want them too short. I don't want them too fat, too thin. I just have what I like, and it's just purely my eyes and what I want.
Right.
And other people will look at my dogs and go, oh, I prefer them like this, or whatever. Like, there's no right, in my view, there's no right or wrong. And we don't do any like ring work, show work with our dogs at all.
Okay.
No, we've got a couple of our Labradors who, if I'm totally honest, should go and do some, because we've got a Labrador stud dog who could do a turn in the kennel club in Crufts, or what's your one, Westminster?
Westminster,
As a dual purpose dog, I think he would he would be, pretty much he'd be up there. For a traditional looking Labrador who's good looking, he's got a good head and deep chest and stuff, but he can also leap a 6-foot gate and, retrieve a bird through an icy lake kind of thing. But it's not really, I don't have great interest in doing it. If one of my team said to me, I'd really like to take, and the dog is called Goose, I'd really like to take Goose to Crufts, I'd be like, great, yeah, go for it. That's a bit of fun. But I'm not there. In the same way I don't do competitions. Some of my team do competitions. They love it. Great. That's great. I'm glad to support them. I really love it if they do well. If they don't do well, we try and encourage them to kind of keep going. It's what it is. But I've got no interest in doing it. I don't have a sort of aspiration when I've got more time. I'm sort of semi-retired, whatever that means, to kind of start doing any of that. I just like going out with having my dogs, going out hunting with them, shooting with them, as we would say, and just enjoying them and enjoying being out with them.
And what about, is there game, like I know from watching your stuff, your number one favorite dog is, what is it? A liver white Springer, right?
Yeah.
And
So my first dog. Yeah.
a good friend of mine that I've become friends with over the years, I hunted with him in South Dakota, and I will say is the consummate pheasant dog. I mean, he lives in pheasant country, and I've watched this dog work and always impressed by it. But I also saw him last year come out and do some sharp-tailed grouse hunting with us. And he basically got his limit of sharp-tailed grouse every day, which everybody would call a pointing dog's work, right? The bigger country. Have you run your dogs out west in the States at all, or have it mostly been for like what we call like grouse and woodcock type work, or pheasant cover? Have you ever run your dogs in big open country? Do they?
Yeah, because we've got grouse moors in Scotland.
I didn't even think of that. I'm not.
We've got the
more.
biggest, like some of the biggest open country. I mean, some of these grouse moors in Scotland are 20,000 acres.
So that's
And it's heather. It's like, it's just far as you can see, just, 8-10 inch high heather.
mhm.
And they're bounding over it. It's much bigger areas. The birds are much wilder. So you've got to have a dog that can range a bit more, because if you've got a little spaniel who's field trial kind of type spaniel and staying in tight, you're just not going to find anything.
So what are you going to do if you're on the moors with, say, your Springer? Is he going to run at 50 yards or 50 meters, or because you still got to be in gun range?
Yeah. So my what I would tend to do is if you're on a grouse moor, is normally 3 or 4 of you spread out.
Yeah.
That
would be
and I would let the dog run more of the line of the guns.
Okay.
I'm not going to let them go any further forward,
Okay.
because, as you say, then they're too far out for a shot. But I'll let them run wider. So the liver and white Springer, my first ever dog of my own, Moss, he was quite a tall, relative to now, he was quite a big Springer Spaniel, and he had a lot of range on him. But he was amazing because in tight cover, in brambles and stuff, he would really get in there and really work hard in a enclosed area. But as soon as you got him out, he almost like opened his wings, and he would range more like a kind of a German short haired or something. He would range much more. So if I was in the middle, he would cover the gun to my left and to my right, who were 30 yards or 40 yards away.
Right.
And he would go out beyond them and back across me, and then out the other side. And he would do that well, but he was doing it quite a lot. So he kind of almost like he knew when he was on a grouse moor, he was like, oh, I'm allowed to range here. And he was allowed to range. And then when we got into a bit of woodland or something, he a couple of sharp peeps on the whittle early on, and he was like, oh yeah, I've got to stay closer.
So it was fine going left to right because he was still always in gun range of a gun, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
but he was still a flushing dog, so he wasn't pointing. He was still flushing. But I have had I had a cocker that used to point woodcock.
Oh, really? He just decided to.
And it just go in, and he was a really smart little dog. I could tell you what you were going to flush. So if we were walking and we might find a hare, a rabbit, a pheasant, a partridge, a woodcock, I could tell you what he was about to flush by the way he moved.
His body motion, his body.
Yeah, he just had a different attitude for rabbits than he did for pheasants, than he did for partridge, and in the woodcock he would point. So woodcock, he'd be working away, he'd flushed a couple of pheasants, and then suddenly, and I'd go, quick, woodcock, and he'd hold it. And I never taught him to hold it because that wasn't what we wanted, but he would hold it for 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then boom, and pump it out, punch it out. And that was always a bit of fun. But, I've got a client that his family, who I interviewed on my podcast, his family kind of invented Labradors, and his Labradors point. But he encourages them to do it. So, and you hear about kennels who sort of, specialize in pointing labs. I kind of, kind of like, if you want a good pointing dog, get a pointing dog.
Thank you.
But then on the other hand, I do train my Labradors to flush for people. So I do get it, because people don't always want the sort of the size, the high strongness of a pointing dog. They just want a Labrador who can kind of do the same thing. But I can't imagine, and again, I'll say what I always say, I'm sure someone will tell me I'm wrong, but I can't imagine shooting over a pointing lab is a particularly exciting adventure.
I like it.
Okay, because they don't have the I mean, they don't have the style and the drive. They're going to be like, oh, there's a point. It's going to be like bait. I mean, I like watching pointers work, but I don't really get a huge amount of enjoyment out of shooting over pointers, because I find it a bit easy. I think it's great for older people who are a bit slower. I think it's great for new people who are learning, and I think it's great for kids because you can set it up. It's safe.
Yeah.
But I like the kind of energy of a spaniel, the kind of the suddenly there's a bird up, it's gone, you got to be quick. when a pointer goes on point and the guy goes, I mean, I've done a lot of quail shooting in South Texas, in Georgia, and it's really fun to do it. Because I like the whole watching the dogs work and stuff, but the actual shooting, is not as exciting as if it was just a spaniel bursting them out and you were there on your tender hooks for 30 minutes waiting for that flush and suddenly they were gone.
Yeah.
And and if you weren't on your tender hooks and you missed that flush, that's you missed it.
Yeah.
And that's for me, that's part of the thrill.
Right. Well, I can tell you that the friends I've made in South Dakota that has the Springer and the other fella that has Labs, they're two of the fastest and best shots I've ever hunted with.
I was going to say, I bet they're damn good shots. Shooting wild pheasants over a Springer, you're shooting birds at 65 yards every day.
And he helped out with some of my listeners came out to a hunt last year and they were pointing dog people. And when he came back at the end of the day, I said, how'd you guys do? And they were out on some public land. He goes, well, if they could shoot faster, they'd have their birds because they are used to their dog going on point. And it does give you a different, I think you could botch up more shots over a pointed dog than a flush dog if you're just a good shot in general. You have too much time to think about it. But I wanted to go back to something I think that I've seen as I got into this, really 40 years ago. Our utility test, which would be our Finnish gun dog test for pointing dogs, in our judge's manual, it was part of the test that it had to have a woodlot that we would take the dog from a field to a woodlot because they wanted to see that dog's ability to just pinch right down to a grouse dog, basically, or a woodcock dog.
Okay.
And I've seen that was thrown out the door decades ago. And I think most of the pointing dog owners were happy about it because most of those pointing dogs would blow through that woodlot just like they blew through the field. And I just, like, I've tried to, I'm not going to change America because we're always going to try to do things fast first and screw it up as best we can and then justify our reasons for doing it, and I've had friends that no, I want a 300-yard dog. And I'm always like, so you don't think there's a sharp-tailed grouse in the next 200 yards? You want him to go to 300 and then start hunting? Or why? You know what I mean? Why not? Why shouldn't that? Now, granted, a pointing dog is going to be bigger running than a flushing dog, but why 300 or 400 yards? That I've never understood.
No, but it's that whole bigger and further kind of mentality. It's a bit like our field trials for Labradors can be a bit the same. It's all about that distance. It's like, have any of you actually been out hunting on your own? Like, when do you need to retrieve a bird 300 yards away?
Right.
Like, who's shooting these birds? They need to have some shooting lessons.
Well, it was probably the guy in the other field shot it.
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of completely like, so in the UK, and it's like they run slightly differently, but I know in America the sort of the lab retrieves are big long retrieves. They're all big long retrieves. And you're like, there's the odd duck that you wound that disappears over across a lake and lands, and you need a good dog to get it. And there's the odd kind of pheasant that you wing and it goes on. But most of the time, 99 of the birds out of 100 you're going to shoot are going to be 50 yards away.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you? So then if you have a dog that's used to going like that, they just overshoot everything all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't really get it. And that, again, each to their own. That's maybe the sport for them is the skill of those long retrieves. But I'm a guy who likes going out shooting. I likes going out hunting with my dogs. So I want my dogs to do what they use. Be used for the purpose that I'm going to use them for. So there's no point training them to swim out into the Atlantic Ocean after goose because it's not something I do.
Right. Something you had, another one I watched years, you were talking
You've been
about.
busy watching all my videos.
Well, I had an interview.
Are you the guy? Are you the one guy that watches all my videos?
That's why your views just went up in the last week. Okay. Didn't you notice? Didn't Joe tell you that your views went up a couple hundred?
These YouTube will give me another $3.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, it's a big money maker.
It's a big money maker, I know.
Maker. Um, I want to talk a little bit about collars because I know I listened to you about it, and I'm going to say my side of it first. I've used an e-collar. I've never trained with an e-collar, but I use it for an emergency. Now you kept mentioning in the UK you called him a sheep killer for so I don't know what kind of dogs kill sheep. I know what kind they are here in the States, but you know,
I mean, I've seen pointers kill sheep. I've seen golden retrievers do it, like all sorts.
so but we use a lot of people use them for just for like snake avoidance,
Yeah.
deer chasing, porcupine avoidance, like that. And I've taken some dogs to high level tests, and I literally never shocked them unless they were chasing something. But you said something I think you were either, what was your younger trainer you were sitting with the other day, or it was probably a year ago.
Ash.
Ash. Um, how everybody just got their finger on the button and the finger on the button, and you said there should be some qualifications to buying a shock collar, something to that effect, because I've seen that where people just rely on that shock collar without.
Well, they're not communicating with the dog. They're not thinking about, if I press the button now, what's that going to do with the dog? They're just pressing the button because the dog isn't doing what they think the dog should be doing.
Right. They haven't done it without a collar, and they're trying to do something that should be done, that could be done without the collar. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
So there was an old gentleman who was a very good dog trainer in the UK. He's sadly long since died, and he said, in theory, in principle, the electric shock collar is a useful training tool, but anyone who knows how to train dogs shouldn't need to use one, and anyone who doesn't know how to train dogs shouldn't be allowed to use one.
that's what I heard you say exactly.
And that's a great, and obviously there's a little bit of wriggle room in there, but as a sort of general rule, that's a great sort of saying. And there are people who use them incredibly effectively in a very positive way, and that's fine. But I don't see the point. Like, we don't need to use it in that way, and you're setting yourself up for other people to misuse them. And that's the bit, that's the problem with all these things. Like, everything's great until someone uses it in the wrong way, and then they get us all in trouble. And I mean, like guns in this country, in America, it's the same deal. Most people are, sensible, and then you get the odd yahoo who does something stupid, and they make a hassle for everybody else. So, the electric shock collar, most people are doing exactly what you did, which is, and what we've done as well, which is, this dog's going to be chasing the sheep or chasing the deer or whatever we need to, or getting bitten by a rattlesnake in South Texas. The collar's going to save the dog's life, so we'll use it effectively. But then you get yahoos coming along who are just like pressing it like the TV control that isn't working, and kind of hitting it on the back of their hand and trying to press it again, and wondering why the dog's still running around.
Right.
It's because the dog hasn't been trained. It's nothing to do with kind of the collar.
Right. Do you now this training program that Justin and I put together and put out there for the world? You and Ash were talking about collar conditioning, and the way I watched him do it and the way I've seen him do it is to the point where it is truly just a tickle. And the way it's kind of explained to me, it was everything's done by hand first, like whistle second, and it's just like a third language that you could use at a distance. It's almost like they shouldn't have been sold with the high level frequency with the 10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then that was in the beginning when they came out, it was really for houndsmen. And the model that was called, it was actually called a trash breaker. So that's where we got our roots from. The first e-collar was called the trash breaker, and it only had 10.
Yeah.
It didn't have a dial on it, but now they have like a tone and a beep. And a lot of people I know, when I kind of give them a hard time about the collar, he says, well, I'm toning him. I'm like, well, you don't think they'd hear a whistle? Dog's hearing is pretty excellent. And No, I liked what you and Ash were talking about, but that's something I haven't seen it yet, but I'm not gonna be surprised someday when you buy a puppy in the States that it's gonna come with an e-collar.
Yeah, whereas over here it's the opposite. They're going to ban them.
Right.
So they've banned them in Wales. They're trying to ban them in Scotland and England. In Europe, they've banned them. I mean, if you're seen out in the park with an e-collar and someone reports you, you can be in quite a lot of trouble in Europe.
Really? Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
Yep. Yeah. I mean, whereas you say like, you wouldn't be surprised if kind of if some of the bigger kind of who are some of the bigger brands of collar like
Garmin and Dogtra and yeah.
Dogtra and stuff, you wouldn't be surprised if they find the sort of bigger breeders and they're like, oh yeah, like every puppy they get a collar or like,
Well, you get your registration, you get a bag of dog food, and you get a collar. And here's your
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But it almost seems to go that way, but the funny
Quite an easy way of deciding whether you're getting a puppy from a good breeder or not, though. If they start doing that, you want to walk away.
right, it's a little too much. That dog was bred for a collar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, oh, well, I was just gonna make a point on that collar. So, like I said, I'm all in favor. Like, if they banned collars in this country, but what I would not miss, or what I would miss, is the ones I use from Garmin, and other collars have it too, is just the location of the dog. It's got and in fact, it goes right to this watch I'm wearing. I could be in the grouse woods. I can hear my dog. I'll hear him stop, and I'll get a little buzz on my watch, so I know the dog is on point.
Yeah.
And it's certainly an aid, but I just don't need the I don't need the stimulus, but I find it super nice, especially or in big country, if your dog does run off because you haven't trained it for a year to stay with you and hunt with you and be your best friend. At least you know where to go looking for the dog if you lose your dog. I mean, dogs do get off on a jag once in a while, or a deer
Yeah.
chase you don't know about. So I like what you and Ash were saying about it, and I wish that message could be emphasized here, that this could help me.
That's the thing. It's just like the force fetch thing and stuff. When every person I sit down, I talk to in the States, and I explain my logic behind force fetch, they're literally looking at you like, that guy makes a lot of sense. But this is what we've always done.
But right. You always go back to that. Yeah.
It's like, that's logical. Yeah, you explain that really well. It makes a lot of sense, but this is what we do. And they get their little wooden bone out and they stick it in the dog's mouth. And they're like, hold. And you're like, okay. How to teach a dog. I mean, I also think that that's just asking for hard mouth in a dog.
I
So
don't.
sitting there going, oh shit, I can't let go, because if I let go, I'm going to get a collar. I'm going to get a correction on my collar. So I'm just going to hold on for dear life, and I'm going to brace for that collar I'm going to brace my teeth for the electric shock,
No.
In the meantime, I'm crushing a chucker or something. It's my view on it. But no, I think it's the education, and I think there's the thing is like Dogtra and Garmin and people, they've got a big marketing budget.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a benefit of putting it out there that how good these collars are and what you can do with them, and getting people to kind of promote them. I've got nothing to gain from, I've got no financial gain from not promoting them. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, if Peter or someone, is it Peter? That's your like animal protection thing, right?
Oh, PETA.
Peter, yeah.
Yeah.
If Peter turned around and says, Charlie, we want to pay you $1 million a year to get out there on the internet and tell people that they don't need to use electric collars, and this is why, like, okay, I'll do it. But I don't, like, no one's paying me $1 million a year to do it. So I just tell people who ask me that, and I'm not anti them. I'm not like, oh no, they're the worst thing ever. I'm just kind of, they're just not that necessary a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that when we do run a test or any trial, the collars are not allowed, of course. And you will see the people that I would say used them right, because while you're observing that dog for an hour and a half of a day, And in one of our tests, you only can run 6 dogs in a day. It's quite extensive. You could tell the people who used them correctly as opposed to the people who didn't, because the dog will always show us, you know,
Yeah.
that, hey, I know that collar's not on my neck, and it's going to take you 3 commands to get me to come in, or I'm going to drop the birder. I saw one that you would love. You would have loved to seen this, because I know the guy so well, and I know I've seen it in both of his dogs. We do a thing in one of our tests. It's called a drag, and they do it in the German testing in Europe as well. They'll take a dead duck on a leash, and one judge will walk off for 100 to 200 yards, sometimes longer, and they take the leash off the duck, and then they go hide, and then the handler will let that dog go. And it's not a test of nose because it's obviously a dead duck being dragged, but it's a test of cooperation and obedience. So the dog follows that stinky scent. The judge that stays out in the woods watches his demeanor as he picks it up with or without enthusiasm. Some of them will circle it, some of them will pee on it, some of them will some of them will start plucking it, and then you're like,
Yep.
okay. And then they'll pick it up, and then they have to bring it back to their handler, and then they're judged on how they deliver the bird to the handler. And that especially that last, 50, 60 yards, is there some energy? Is the tail wagging? And this one guy's dog, we're in a hayfield that, I don't know if you do big bales in the UK on hayfields, like the big round bales.
Yep.
There was a big round bale about 30 yards away from us, and his dog was coming to us, and the dog went behind the hay bale. And now we're like, oh boy, what's going on? We don't know if he's plucking it, peeing on it. The judge in the woods can't see it. And us, the other 2 judges and the handler, can't see it. So we give him the option. You can stay quiet, but the longer he stays behind that bale, he's refusing his job. And this dog, all of a sudden, we saw the duck flung above the height of a bale, which a bale is about, 4.5, 5 feet.
5 feet. Yeah, yeah.
The dog, as playing with it, he threw it up in the air. We saw the duck up in the air and back down. And then he says, "Sergeant, come! Sergeant, come!" And then again, the duck went in the air. And that dog probably said, he goes, "You can put that collar on me all day long." And I saw his next dog do a similar thing 3 years later.
That's so funny.
And I'm blaming it on the collar, because the dog didn't have the collar on, and it was his time to just have some fun.
2 fingers, I'm having a blast.
Right. I give you 1, but I can give you 2.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just,
That's brilliant.
I love watching your stuff, and I encourage people to watch your. I don't know if we'll get a lot of converts, because it's, I would say my audience is probably 90% pointing dog audience, right? And they're gonna keep introducing their dogs early. They're gonna use that bird for gun introduction, which in our video series we showed different ways of doing it. Justin likes to do it just on puppy walks with light gunfire. He calls it distraction shooting. Just when he's out looking in a field, he's on a puppy walk or a little older, he's just pointing the blank gun behind him. I know how you prepare now for your first bird contact. How do you introduce gunfire to the young dog in that? Do you do that also in that first year before there's a bird in
Yeah,
sight?
yeah. The other thing is because we're training a lot of dogs and we're doing it all around the immediate vicinity of the place. When the puppies are in their playpens, when they're in the summer, so from April, May-ish, certainly May through to September, any puppies we have are in like grass paddocks, about half the size of a tennis court, just out by the house here.
And they're
And
hidden.
every day, pretty much every day, somebody's out firing a starting pistol, firing a shotgun. We might be shooting. My son and I might set up the clay pigeon trap down here, and the puppies are 50, 60 yards away over there. So they're hearing the shots. It's just kind of part of their day. So when we first introduce them, we tend to do a sharp clap. So we throw the bumper, do a sharp clap. And when you practice your clapping enough, you can make it a pretty good crack. And then we'll introduce a starter pistol. And I would say most of the dogs, the first time you fire the starter pistol, ears prick up. They're looking at you because they've heard that crack. and they're not anxious about it. If we get one or two that are a bit not sure, then we go through kind of with it in our pocket, maybe in a game bag to muffle it a bit. Maybe we have someone standing further away. But again, because most of the dogs we're training for that kind of thing are our own bred dogs, we know they're not going to have a problem. They're just like, we heard it when we were a puppy. We carry on. So your friend walking around a field firing a few shots here and there, that I would agree. I would fully agree with that. And I guess to go back to your point about, the not converting anybody. I'm not necessarily trying to convert people. I'm just trying to make people think outside the box in a logical way and just see that there are other ways, and just look at other things and make a kind of concerted choice that actually this is how I want to do it with my dog, or maybe I'll try that with my dog or whatever, rather than just going, oh, this is what we do.
Yeah.
And I always say to people in lesson when they've come to us and they've been to another trainer or something, and they say, oh, he told me to do this. I said, why? Did they explain it to you? Oh, no, no, they didn't. And some people are a bit vague about it, and some people are like, no, they absolutely didn't. They just, when they were asked, why do we do this? Because that's what we do and that's what works. And I'm like, if the person can't explain it to you, they don't know why either.
Right.
So that's all I'm trying to do is just make people look at the bigger picture, put some more common sense and thought into it, rather than just doing it because that guy over there told me to.
Well, then tell us how we can't brag on our dog that got to go hunting at 6 months of age. How do we get off of that? How do we get off of that ledge? Because if I've seen one article, I've seen 100 in our little club magazine about, I got him out into Dakotas. He was 7 months old, and they're so proud of him. Like, where are we going to get that discipline?
Run him. Here's a really arrogant British answer to that question.
Good.
Okay. Run him against one of my dogs when he's 3.
Okay. And
I didn't give a shit. I didn't give a shit what your dog did at 6 months old, because look at my dog now.
I love it. That's what I was hoping to get out of Charlie when he came.
Some conceited bloody British guy thinks he's superior, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, again, whatever. Like, it's the same as bragging about your kids. Oh, my kid's at school and he won this race, he did that.
Yeah.
Great. Well done, you. If that's what excites you, that your kid age 7 got a scholarship to somewhere, like my kid's really happy and he's having a good time. That's, we've all got a different trajectory of where we're heading, haven't we? And the key is whatever makes you happy. What makes me happy is going out with my nice, well-behaved dogs, having a nice day's hunting, enjoying them in the house, just having a nice life with them. If getting your dog out at 7 months is what rocks your boat, then go for it. Get it out at 7 months.
But
it just doesn't really matter, does it? It's because it's what excites you, and that's what it's all about. I said to some of my team the other day, I mean, like workplaces can get kind of stressful or whatever, like they always do, anything. And I'm like, guys, you've got to just take a step back. We're dog trainers. Like, we don't have a proper job. We mess around with dogs. We're not curing cancer. We're not like fighting for our freedom. We're training dogs. We're having a laugh somehow we managed to get paid for it. I mean, we're living the dream. So just don't get in a pickle about it. Like, and if people kind of come at me and they're like, oh, okay, like, I just train dogs.
do you get the clients that are in a hurry, that come to you and kind of say, how long before I can take them? Do you get that still?
Yeah.
So that mentality is still there.
But there is always that, oh, I want to get my dog. Like, the worst one is people, the dog comes in for training and they come and see it and they're like, oh, he's doing great, I want to take him home. He's like, yeah, he's doing great because he's with me. Well, not with me, but with one of my team.
Yeah.
He's with a professional trainer. We know what we're doing. Because he's going to do great.
Yeah.
But he needs more time training so he can do great with you, because you're an amateur. And that's kind of hard for them to understand, that just because he's doing it with us doesn't mean he's going to be doing it with them tomorrow in exactly the same way. They've got to, it's got to be more ingrained in the dog, and they've got to learn. And then the other one is people want to buy a trained gun dog, and they see the dog at a year old and they're like, oh, wow, it's healing on and off the lead, sitting and staying. steady to retrieves, doing a left and a right and like an 80-yard memory and whatever else they're doing. Oh, we'll just take him now. I'm like, but we haven't even introduced him to hunting yet. I'm like, oh no, we can do that. I'm like, that's the hardest bit. That's the bit that it's not the hardest bit, that's the bit you can make the most mistakes and irreparable mistakes. And then they take the dog and they take it hunting. You get a phone call like 5 months later. They're like, oh yeah, he's squeaking on a peg, or he's running in and he's not listening. And I'm like, yeah, because you took him off me at a year old and you took him out shooting like the next week. We weren't going to take him shooting for at least 3 months. And then we were going to go slowly, slowly, slowly. And at 20 months old, you were going to get a really lovely dog who was awesome. So our best customers are always the ones who are like, you just call me when we're ready to go. I've got a dog going to a guy in Montana. And he said, I want a really good dog, Charlie. You just call me when he's ready.
Okay.
There's no rush.
That's
I send him a few photos here and there, and he goes, thank you very much. He hasn't once asked me when the dog's coming. He's just like, you just let me know. And I don't know whether you've seen from some of our stuff, we've got a big project we're just starting soon. We're building a site. We bought 100 acres for our training facility. We're going to have the Gundog school, a vet hospital, a boarding kennel, a luxury kind of dog hotel, an indoor training arena, a hydrotherapy, physiotherapy recovery unit. We're going to have a swimming pool for the dogs. We've got like an 8-acre lake. It's going to be like the best dog training facility in the world, I hope. And log cabins for people to stay in, accommodation for staff to stay on site. So we've got a load of stuff going on now. All those different things are going to grow our different bits of our business. We've also got a business where we organize hunting trips to the UK and Europe mainly for Americans. So we've got quite a lot of other things that we do. And one of the things I'm looking forward to the most is being less beholden to my clients. And what I mean by that is being able to say, this is what we do, and this is how it works. And if they want to do something different, I go, that's great, but just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we sell really nice, fully trained dogs when we think they're ready to go. And this is what it's going to cost you. And when it's ready, we'll call you. And you're welcome to come and visit it. We'll send you videos. But if you start saying, oh, when's the dog ready? When's the dog ready? When's the dog ready? We'll send you a deposit back and tell you to leave us alone. And I mean that in the nicest possible way, because all me and my team want to do is produce really, really good dogs. And everybody's in a rush.
Yeah.
What have you got now? What have you got now? Well, what I've got now isn't right for you. If you just wait, if you have a bit of planning and you wait. And I've had a couple of pretty interesting guys in America, like pretty high-powered, wealthy, well-known guys. And they're like, I cannot believe you made me wait 18 months for my dog. I've never waited 18 months for anything in my goddamn life. So we do it already, but we just don't do it enough. And I'd like to do it more and make it more about what we want to do. Do less, do like more of what we want to do and less of what we don't want to do.
Yeah. Well,
because we'll have a vet business and various other businesses to kind of, keep the ecosystem going.
Yeah. I could say what people will say here in this country. The only people in the States that have patience are doctors.
Yeah.
A couple things. I want to just let you sing your song about why is the Springer Spaniel your favorite dog? I mean, is it just because it's blends with you, or is it the overall package? Because like right now I'm in love with my second cocker, like I was with my first one. I don't have a lot of control over her, yet she hunts at a good pace, at a good range. I can give her a little whistle. She'll come back. I can't stop her on game yet. I haven't even played with it. I don't even know if I will, but I'd aspire to. But what is it about the Springer that you say like that's your favorite dog? You can tell us anything you want in Charlie.
So, I mean, I love Springers. I love Cockers and I love Labradors, and that's why I have all three of them. So but I do say if I had to have one, it would be a Springer. Now there's a few things. One, I grew up with Springers. So my dad had Springers and Labradors, but the Springer I had from age 4 as a child, slept on my bed and she was my best friend till I was sort of 16, 17.
Yeah.
She then died, and all I wanted was another Springer. So age 18, I got another Springer who was Moss, my original sort of what I would call my dog, not a family dog.
Yeah.
And I think so there's that kind of nostalgia. There's got to be an element of that.
Okay.
And my dad I think my dad would have said his favorite dog was a Springer. And my dad died when I was quite relatively young, so there's probably an element of that. And then they're so wanting to get it right and wanting to work. And I think, again, without kind of patting myself on the back, but people tell me all the time, I've got a kind of weirdly strong work ethic. And my mother always says, she doesn't know where the hell I got it from. But I just want to work all the time, because I don't really see it as work, but I just want to be doing stuff all the time. I mean, it's 9 p.m. in the UK. I've got dogs to walk. I've got puppies to feed. I've got puppies here to clean out. I've got a couple of emails to do. I'll be finished at 11. I'll be up at 5. I just love it. And I think the Springer Spaniel is the equivalent to me in a dog, and that's why that's why I love them, because they're just like, where are we going? We're going this way. We're going to go as hard as we can. We're going to do as best we can. My son is a Cocker fan, and my son he's a typical 11-year-old boy who's got ADHD. He's all over the shop, busy, a little bit crazy, very, very funny. He's got great sense of humor, and he's a Cocker Spaniel. That's what Cockers are like.
Right.
Whereas my other son is a Labrador. He remembers everything. He takes everything. He's got everything done. He's got everything organized. He's just quite methodical. Like,
not as animated. He's not as animated.
No, he's not. He's still full of beans. He's still full of fun, but he's not that kind of wacky, crazy, out of loose cannon that his big brother is. Yeah. And my youngest son is definitely a Labrador guy. He loves Labradors. You ask him what his favorite dog is, and he'll list 6 or 7 of our Labradors. And he has a Cocker, and he loves his little Cocker that when he's with it, but he forgets about her and goes back to the Labradors. Yeah. So, I think there's definitely, I've got more. I just feel like, they can do a bit of everything. I'm not brilliant at anything, but I'm quite practical and kind of turn my hand to a lot of things. I've trained dogs. I've built houses. I've set up various different businesses. I've done a number of things. None of them have taken me to being a billionaire or winning any prizes or anything, but I enjoy them all, and I feel like I do them all reasonably well, and I think that's a Springer.
Well, I like I said, I've contemplated it, but I'm still trying to master the Cocker. Maybe I should have started with the Springer first. I don't know, because she is a little, again, I can get her to stay in her crate. I can get her to wait at the door, but given her head, she's going to bounce off the couch and the wall about 4 or 5 times before she goes to the door. And
which is what my son does on the way out the door.
just,
Whereas I'm like up and gone. I'm out. Like, where are we going next? Let's not waste time.
just direct.
Which is
Yeah.
more like a Springer.
Yeah.
Whereas a Cocker's like, woohoo, what are we doing? Let's go that way. Let's go that way. There's no plan.
Yeah.
There's no plan with a Cocker. They're just everywhere. And then the labs are in the background going, what in Christ the hell are you doing?
Charlie, how often do you do any events in the States? Or I know you mentioned coming with dogs, and I saw you did an interview in Santa, but are you doing any events?
Not yet. It's on the horizon.
Okay.
So we have this big project we're doing in Scotland at the moment, and then we have the next project after that is and it's just this sort of an idea formulating.
Right.
We want to set up a base over there. We want to set up a kennel, like a satellite kennel, but not like a franchise like people do. It would be us. It would be one of my trainers from the UK. It would be British trainers in America doing our dogs that are all our bloodlines, doing exactly what we do, but just having a base in America where we can help our American customers, with a bit of revision training for their dogs and, different options. as part of that, we are definitely we've done a I did a talk at a shooting club in Millbrook around the time that I was at Orvis, and I did that podcast. I
Yeah.
did a talk at the one in Millbrook. The guys at Orvis have talked to me about doing some sort of training weekend there. We're definitely kind of that is something we're kind of like we're wanting to kind of do. I mean, Covey Rise are just doing an article about me at the moment. Which is kind of like from what I see, seems like a really nice magazine, a popular magazine over there with kind of hunting dog guys. Like, so we're definitely sort of edging our way into your sort of territory more, rather than just in the past it's just been bring some dogs over, deliver them to the clients, very private people, very generally pretty wealthy people, or very devoted kind of to the cause kind of people. And we spend the time with them, and that's really where our focus has been. But no, I do want to do more events over there, because I think, I should say we've done the UK, but we're quite well known over here. We go to big events in the South, and everyone's like, people know who I am. Like, I don't want to say that in the wrong way, but people know who I am. They've heard of me. We've kind of anyone who wants to know about me probably has, is a one person away from finding out about me. So we're kind of doing that job pretty well over here, and I feel like we're not in America, so we could do a lot more. And I think just you guys are so enthusiastic about it all, and there's so much more space, there's so many more people,
Right.
there's so many more people who do it. I just think there's just so much we could do over there. So I feel like that's definitely kind of
It's in the
focus.
Yeah.
The focus going forward is we're going to set this base up in the UK that's going to be awesome, a one of a kind, and then we're like, right, the next thing is we're going to use that to be able to enable me to do more stuff over there. Whereas at the moment I'm kind of rushing back all the time to get other things done over here and tick as many boxes as I can. But once we've got this new setup organized, we're going to have a lot more people working for us, give me a lot more time. Not necessarily like they'll still need my input, but I don't necessarily need to be there as often as I am here.
Well, that'll be exciting. I would look forward to it. I might not. Well, if you don't hurry up, I could be dead by then. But
No, I'm not somebody I'm not known for hanging around. I get shit done, so you'll be fine. It'll not be far away.
it won't be a decade, right? It'll be.
Oh no. I'm talking like, I mean, I want to have a full. I want Mordor Gundogs fully up and running in the US within maybe 4 years.
Oh, I like the sound of that. I'd love to have you back on again. I think because this was short notice, I didn't get a lot of questions, but I think we covered a lot of the differences. And like I said, I followed a lot of your stuff, and it just rings a bell with me. And it wasn't from the frustration of seeing people do it not wrong, but as judging these dogs as many years as I did, how poorly the dogs did. And I think it was from that foundation of not taking it slow. And that's why I gravitated to your stuff and your philosophy.
What do they say? Slow and steady wins the race. The tortoise always beats the hare. I've said that many a time on a video.
Well, that's why you shave your head. You look like a tortoise.
Well, no, I think it's the funny thing is the irony is I'm like a million miles an hour. So the guys who work for me and my wife will think I'm crazy because I'm doing a million things. I'm definitely not the tortoise. I'm the hare running around like a crazy thing.
But
but when it comes to the dogs, I'm like, no, we'll just do it in a very controlled, sort of sensible fashion.
So next time I'm in London when my wife drags me there for another Harry Potter event, believe it or not, I was brought there about 5-6 years ago. My wife said, "You want to go to London someday?" And I said, "Yeah, I've stopped there once when on my way back and on a plane, but I never saw it." Turned out she and my daughters, they kind of grew up with the Harry Potter series, which I know you're a Lord of the Rings guy, because I also heard that. See, I've been watching it. So the next time I get dragged over to see castles that were in the Harry Potter movie, how far do I have to leave from London to come pay you a visit?
Easiest is get on another airplane.
Oh, how far are you?
It's by car. We're about 8 hours from London.
Okay, so you're way up north.
Yeah, well, Scott. Yeah, so you just fly if you want to get on a plane and So when your wife and kids get off the airplane at Heathrow,
Yeah.
just when they go that way, just go that way and jump on a plane to Scotland. And when she rings you, says, "Where are you?" You say, "I'm at baggage check." Just don't tell her you're the one in Edinburgh.
All right.
So
That's
Edinburgh, yeah, we're close to Edinburgh, and the famous Gleneagles Hotel is very near our new site, which is very popular with your fellow countrymen. So yeah, but we're basically, if you put a dot right in the middle of Scotland, you pretty much put it on our farm.
Gotcha. All right, Charlie, thanks for taking the time. I know it's late there. You got things to do. Hope you consider doing this again someday.
I'd love to. That would be fab. Yeah.
And maybe coming on one of our monthly Zoom rooms, maybe one time a year. Just, I know that people would love that. I get patrons of our show. We get together and we start drinking beer or whiskey and smoking cigars, and 30, 40, 50 of us are on there. And occasionally I'll get a good guest to come on and lecture us a little bit. So if you consider that
Sounds awesome.
sometime, it'd be great.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll come and do it in person.
Oh, even better.
I mean, I'll be over delivering some dogs to sort of Chicago and Wisconsin in October, maybe November.
Oh, nice. Well, then you know what? That'll be the first time we shake hands because I can be there in a couple hours.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
Thanks, Charlie.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All the best.
All right. You too.
Okay. Bye.